Present.
Here.
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk, and I want to thank my colleagues. I know that as a result of Thanksgiving next week, there were some members who were going to be out of town with family, so today is a special time. We usually do not meet on a Friday to the viewing public, but today, because of the trying to get everybody at the table and all the administration folks at the table, because we all know Thanksgiving is a very special date and time in our country and in our city. So again, I want to thank all my colleagues for accommodating us today. We're going to revert from the agenda as been posted. We're going to, well, no, in fact, it's just the way it's set up. Okay, excuse me. We're going to start with ordinance number 1080-2024. Let me find it here in our stack. Okay. This legislation, and I'm going to read the caption, ordinance number 1080-2024 by council members Polensek, Griffin, and McCormick, an emergency ordinance to supplement the codified ordinances by amending section 433.07 as amended by ordinance number 1279-15 passed April 24, 2017 related to street racing. It was the first time reading was October 7th. It went to administrative review, came back, was approved by Director of Public Safety, approved by Director of Finance. There was no legal objection, and that was dated 11/8/27 by the Director of Law, who's with us at the table. Before I call upon the Safety Director and the Law Director, the Chief Police Prosecutor, and the Chief, I want to just say this. All of us have witnessed what has transpired in the streets of Cleveland with regard to individuals coming in to terrorize our neighbors, terrorize our business districts, create chaos, attempt to intimidate police officers, intimidate residents, visitors to our city. And I, like most members of the body, am outraged by what I have witnessed, what I have seen, and what I have heard from businesses, from residents, and again, visitors alike. And I look at it this way. When individuals are coming up from Columbus, Cincinnati, Barberton, coming in from Sandusky and elsewhere, when they're coming into our city in a caravan to disrupt, to terrorize our community, it told me and it told all of us in this city that they don't respect our city. They don't respect our Cleveland Police Department. They don't respect the government within the city of Cleveland. And above all, they don't respect our citizens. So the legislation that we worked on, and I want to thank our attorneys, the council attorneys, and I hope they're in attendance here. Yeah, Rachel. I want to thank Rachel Scalish for working on this with me and the council president and Councilman McCormick. This effort we put forth is to send a clear message that when you come into Cleveland, you're going to respect our citizens, whether you're a visitor or whether you're homegrown. You're going to respect our city and our businesses, and again, above all, our residents. And this is clearly set to define what street takeovers are, et cetera. So at this moment, I'm going to call upon the Director of Public Safety, Wayne Drummond, and the Chief for their comments if they wish to, and then we'll proceed from there. Director.
Thank you, Chair, and other council members. Obviously, I have quite a few people at the table with me. They'll introduce themselves as we go along and also answer any questions that the body may have.
Thank you,
But
Chief.
the ordinance, as you stated, Chair, is ordinance number 1080-2024, and it's a supplement of the codified ordinances related to street racing proposed by City Council. This ordinance adds definitions for various types of driving maneuvers relating to street racing, stunt driving, and street takeovers. This ordinance also includes penalties for vehicle components used in street racing, stunt driving, or street takeovers in the city. The Department of Public Safety has reviewed this ordinance and has no objection to the ordinance. And as stated, Chair, there are certain provisions in here that's that wasn't in before. Part of it is
Yes.
persons rendering assistance in any manner to street racing, stunt driving, or street takeovers will be equally charged as the participants. It's also, and then also the additional penalties imposed by law that we can, the Division of Police, that is, can confiscate components used in a violation of this particular section.
Thank
Again,
you.
we have the Chief of Police, her staff. We have Prosecutor Jordan, Chief Director Griffin here at the table can answer any questions that the body may have.
Okay, Chief, you care to comment?
Yep. Good afternoon, Council Chair and Council members. So I just wanted to give a quick update on the enforcement efforts from,
I would just ask a moment for everyone, when you are called upon, please identify yourself to the viewing public. So go ahead.
So Chief Dorothy Todd, Cleveland Division of Police.
Thank you, Chief.
So our enforcement, as you know, the takeovers, the major takeover started around September 15th, and that was a takeover that happened at West 25th and Lorraine. We have continued to actively investigate that. As of today, we have made 3 felony arrests, seized 4 vehicles, and we have 6 indictment counts for the actions that occurred on West 25th and Lorraine. And if you remember, that was where they lit the fire in the street and did the
Yes.
donuts around in the middle of the intersection. And then on September 28th, and we all know there was the city-wide street takeover that occurred. As of today, we have 10 felony arrests, 4 firearms were seized, 8 vehicles were seized, 32 search warrants were executed, and 103 indictments counts were issued as of today. Since that is still an ongoing investigation, as you see throughout the past 2 months since this occurred, we've continued to make arrests. These numbers are to date. These are not the final numbers. And this is something we will continue to investigate and enforce anyone who partook in that to bring charges against them. Since the September 28th takeover, we have conducted takeover details each weekend, mostly Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, until the adverse weather, this
Yes.
coming weekend. But since then, we've had 9 felony arrests, 12 vehicles towed, 2 firearms seized, 65 traffic tickets, 16 misdemeanor citations that were a result of the enforcement from the weekend takeover details.
Okay.
Since September 28th, we have not seen any of the citywide takeover events. The only thing that we've continued to see throughout the city are gatherings in parking lots,
Yes.
which are the ones that were occurring prior to. But the enforcement actions of our members have prevented these activities from continuing.
Okay.
So that's the update I have for today.
Okay, so as of this moment, how many cars do you have in possession? Do you know that?
So from the September 28th,
Yes.
we have 8 vehicles that were seized.
8 from the September, 28.
From the September 15th, we've seized 4 vehicles.
Wait a minute, let me see. 28th, we got 8 vehicles. 8 vehicles, okay. Go ahead, and the other one?
September 15th was 4.
September 15th, 4, okay.
And then our weekend details, we've towed 12 vehicles.
And from weekend, 12 towed. So that would be outside of the actual takeovers.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 12 towed. 12, okay, good. Okay, who else from your team would like to comment at all?
I think that anything else will be available for questions.
Okay. Let me get to the police prosecutor. What I've learned here over the years that council, and again to the viewing public, council cannot hire, we cannot fire, we cannot deploy, we cannot administer. We're prohibited by law. We provide the funding, we provide the legislative action and authority. But we look to the law department, and I will revert whoever wish, either the law director or the chief police prosecutor would like to go first. But we look to the city to enforce the law through Cleveland Division of Police. And that's been our frustration here at the table, that we have enacted numerous pieces of legislation over the years. The one that comes to mind that has been very frustrating with us has been the nighttime curfew. Of the individuals that have been arrested, and I'll go back between the law director and the police prosecutor and chief. Of the individuals arrested, how many were juveniles? Do you know?
I don't have that information. Commander Kincaid, do you have that with you? If not, we'll have to get that for you. I think most were, there a good variety were
Yeah.
young adults.
Right. But I want to make sure that on the juveniles that are arrested late night, that they're being charged with the curfew violation as well, which then would require, according to Judge Early, a guardian or parent to be in a courtroom. And she's made it clear if they're charged that they have a special docket that they'll deal with those individuals within Cleveland Municipal Court. So I want to make it sure that we're going after these individuals in all different directions as well. I want to make sure that we're not just looking at one silo or putting them in one silo. I want to make sure that we're looking at them, and if they're minors and they're out late night in the city and they're being arrested, that we're taking appropriate action. So, but it's up to CPD when you make that arrest or you get that individual, that ultimately there's that follow-up. So I want to make that perfectly clear at the table. So to the law director, to the chief prosecutor, do you care to comment with regard to the legislation?
Yes, let me address the
Okay.
street racing.
Identify yourself for the public.
Yes, thank you, Councilman. Mark Griffin, Law Director, City of Cleveland.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm here with our Cleveland City Prosecutor, Aquila Jordan. Let me make a few comments,
Yes.
and then our City Prosecutor will talk as well. First of all, I want to say thank you to you, Chairman, and to Attorney Scalish for drafting this legislation. It was perhaps 4 or 6 weeks ago, Chairman, when you stood up in City Council and said, we have to get the attention of these people.
We
that
do.
they're like mules that we have to smack them in the head. And I would say that this is an important piece of doing that first piece. As technology changes, criminals become more creative, and we have to change as well. Before there was social media, you couldn't organize a street takeover from Sandusky, from Cincinnati, from Columbus. And it is outrageous that people come to our city and they think that they can do that here. And in part, that's because technology has changed. And so we have to have laws like this to change to keep up with the changing crimes in our country. So as Chief of Police and Safety Director indicated, this is an important piece with increased definitions, which are important, but also the components are important, because this will allow us, not only when we seize the vehicles, we can seize parts of the vehicles that will essentially incapacitate them. So that, I think, is a strong blow to the head there, as well as fleeing and assistance. And, as I mentioned about social media, one of the things that is good and outrageous at the same time is that these people filmed their crimes and they put them on social media that they felt that they could do that. And that was outrageous because it sends a message to our community that this is acceptable. Well, it's not. The only good part of it is that social media helped us then charge them and pursue them. And when they then took their social media down and they deleted their posts, we could charge them with obstruction of justice as well.
Wonderful.
So when this happened, I can tell you that Mayor Bibb was outraged, and he reached out to the safety director and to chief of police and to me to say, this cannot happen. We want them charged as aggressively as possible. We pulled in our city prosecutor, Aquila Jordan, and she has been working closely with the police to push this as well. So I'd like to turn
Thank
it
you.
to, if I may, to
Thank you.
City Prosecutor Aquila Jordan. to
Ms.
talk
Jordan,
about
thank you for coming to the table.
Thank you, Councilman, for inviting me and Chair to the body through the chair. Thank you for allowing us to be here today. I do also want to echo everyone else's sentiments and thank publicly Attorney Scalish for this excellent piece of legislation. We are very excited upon reading it, upon reviewing it. We are very hopeful that you all will consider it and pass it. As my boss has said, this is incredible legislation that really allows us to attack this crime in a different way. I want to publicly thank the CDP task force that has worked on these street takeovers and all their accompanying agencies that have partnered with them. The amount of investigatory hours that have went into these charging decisions have been phenomenal. And so our police should truly be commended for the type of work they did on this, for the digging into the social media, for the tracking down witnesses, for the gathering of evidence. So we have strong cases to present, which has resulted in the charges that Chief Todd has described. So thank you.
Okay. So within the embodiment of the legislation, do you believe we have encapsulated incorporated everything that we needed to make sure that CPD can send a clear message? Is there any area that might be a little foggy or cloudy? I want to make sure the action that we're taking today addresses and supports the effort of CPD.
So I do not believe that there's anything additional that needs to be added to the legislation at this time.
Okay.
However,
Right.
We have learned over time that criminals can be incredibly creative.
Yes.
And so they can read as well, and they
Okay.
will go through the legislation and see ways to skirt the law, which is
Okay.
why we will continue to be creative and see, in addition to this, if there are other legal violations that we can charge them with, we will.
Okay. I have spoken to Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Mike O'Malley as well, and he said on those instances, those individuals where there are clearly felony charges, he indicated that his folks will take the appropriate and aggressive action as well once they come to him. So he's looking forward to that partnership as well, because again, when you start pointing guns at police officers, when you start threatening police officers, please correct me if I'm wrong, to the law director and to the chief prosecutor, those are felony crimes, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I want to make it clear, and because we're not playing. I mean, we're beyond playing at this point. So anyone from the command staff? You gentlemen have any comments, questions? Deputy Chief Ali?
Good afternoon, Councilman and council members. I want to echo the sentiment from the chief and the council members about
Okay.
the work that the men and women from the Division of Police did. Countless hours, tireless. Some of our partners really contributed as well. But I'd be remiss if I did not acknowledge the citizens of Cleveland who, it's not just lip service when we talk about doing this together. There were a number of tips and information that the public provided to help us with this investigation. So I really wanted to acknowledge the fact that this is a cooperative effort with the citizens of Cleveland as well as the Cleveland Division of Police.
Okay. Okay. Director, anybody else have any comments from the administration before I open up the questions? Again, I want to acknowledge Rachel Scalish, our council legal staff, who worked on this very diligently. Rachel, stand up so the viewing public can see you. Stand up. Thank you very much. Who worked diligently on this and worked and also worked looking at our partners in Columbus as well as it pertains to when I say partners, I'm plugging the state legislature as it pertains to actions that they were looking at as well. Okay, Councilman Joe Jones, Vice Chair. Questions?
Thank you, Mr.
And I'm
Chairman.
keeping everybody to 10 minutes in this round. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I might have to go back on a second round.
Thank you.
So you can put me now and put me on the
Thank
second
you.
one, just in case, right?
Okay.
So looking at the particular ordinance that we have in front of us, what my question would be, what are the penalties that will prohibit this from taking place? What are our penalties?
Rachel, would you care to come up and you want to talk about that, the penalty provisions? You want to come to the table?
As Rachel is coming up to the table, to the chair, to Councilman Jones to answer your question. yeah,
Yes.
It states in there under Section C that whoever violates this section is guilty of street racing, stunt driving, or street takeover,
Yes.
a misdemeanor of the first degree. So it's a M1.
M1. That's 6 months in jail or $1,000 fine. And to my colleagues,
That's correct.
because I had inquired, so why didn't we increase the penalties greater? But the discussions and all that, Rachel addressed that. We could not exceed state penalties. We could not exceed those at this point. Is that correct?
Yes, through the chair, that's correct. We also cannot institute felonies.
Yeah.
And
right.
the next graded penalty would be a felony, so
Yes,
we can't do
okay.
that as a city.
Councilman Jones.
So basically, our tools right now is $1,000, and do we have the ability within what we have within existing law to and there's jail time up to 6 months? Is that how it works?
So, through the chair, if I can just address the
Yes,
question really
Chief.
quick. So, through the chair to Councilmember Jones, we have 103 indictment counts. The majority of those are felony crimes, and the street takeovers is the misdemeanor. But like we discussed, the pointing of a weapon, the lighting the fires, the aggravated rioting, those are all felony charges. So we have 10 felony arrests, but that results in the 130 or 103 charges, and many of those charges are felonies. So just the takeover on itself is a M1 misdemeanor, but there's other activity involved that are felony crimes,
For those people that you're able to catch in the actual act, correct?
or in the recordings.
Or in the recordings?
Yes.
Okay. So if we have someone, because, this started before in Ward 1, it was on fire 5-6 years ago. We were talking about how bad it was. And so when it spread across the city, I'm glad that, this administration is taking action on it. And I'm appreciative also that we were able to get the street restructured at Lee and Harvard. Now, those street takeovers in that space and time, can we still go back and find those people if we know who they are during those periods because we had them on camera?
So through the chair to Councilmember Jones, yes, and that I could talk with Commander Valentino.
Okay.
They may have already addressed some of that, but we'll follow up with him.
And you can seize, in terms of penalties, you can actually seize the cars too? Under this, can we take the cars and the ownership of the cars and vehicles?
Let Law Director?
Through the chair to the councilman. So yes and no, and I think this makes an important step forward with respect to components. If we seize the entire car, we are responsible to the lien holders, so if there's a loan on it, so then that puts the city in a difficult position. But one of the important wax to the mule, I would say, is that we can now, under this legislation that you're considering, seize the components that will essentially prevent the car from moving, and then we won't be subject to the entire lien. So we will effectively have control of the car, make it inoperable, and I think that sends a message. So as Attorney Scalish said, we can't make these felonies. We don't want to seize the car, but this is a creative and effective way to take the use of the car away from these people who want to do damage to our streets.
Now, what happens with because the takeover is, part of the crime is they've taken it over. What about all the people who are the crowd? Because that's what we have, and that's the major issue right now. And it was a couple of Saturdays ago, I saw the young man, beginning the proposition of setting up and staging another situation in the Lee Harvard Shopping Plaza, which has been, we've spent a lot of money on trying to get systems in there. I think we're up to like $3,000 a month or something like that for another new camera system in there at the expense of the shopping plaza to try to help resolve this consistency in terms of issue. And so it would be nice to know how we deal with those crowds, because I've been able to go up there when I'm seeing them there and disrupt them early and have the police come up there. I think Commander sent a couple of cars to stop a couple of Saturdays ago some of this same situation from getting going again.
The way, and I'll let the chief prosecutor, the way we've designed the legislation, those people who are clearly, that we can identify as participating, are those who are part of the caravan, and I would say to our Rachel Scalish as well, they can be charged as well under this provision.
Correct.
Because that's the message we got to send. You might not be driving a vehicle, but if you're in it and you're part of the caravan, you're going to get charged as well. That's exactly.
So
Thank you.
to the councilman through the chair, that's part of the beauty of this ordinance here. What the chief of police has talked about, we have primarily charged felonies on, have been the individuals who are the actual drivers and the people engaging in the felony conduct, right? Before this legislation, we could make a complicity argument for a felony, but there wasn't a lot of case law to support it. Through the way Rachel has written this legislation, it writes in the concept of complicity right into the statute. So this legislation actually allows us to go after the individuals who are just there observing, they're videotaping, and it provides us with giving them the same penalties as if they were engaging in the activity themselves. So it's really powerful legislation to get to those offenders specifically.
Thank you.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Slife. You're good. Councilman Kelly. Good. Okay. Without any further questions, again, I want to publicly state and thank Rachel. I want to thank the law director, Yes, I want to thank the law director. I want to thank the chief prosecutor, Ms. Jordan, safety director, the chief, the command staff. And again, what I'm hoping that the message that comes out of this action, and when we will pass this on Monday, is that you want to come up here and disrespect us, then be prepared to have a car with no wheels and tires on it, or no steering wheel. Come and get your fancy Dodge Charger, your Hellcat, your Mustang, or Camaro with no wheels. I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that instance, and I personally want to be there when they attempt to retrieve their vehicle with no wheels on it. Okay, I'm looking forward to that. So I just think that it's 2024, and we collectively, all of us, have got to send a message. You're not going to disrespect our citizens. You're not going to disrespect our businesses. You're not going to disrespect visitors that are coming to our city. So again, I want to thank all of you for participating today. Without any further questions, ordinance number 10, let me find it here. What did I do with it? Right here. 1080 stands approved is read. Thank you, my colleagues. Sign it up. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Law Director, you're always welcome to the table. Assistant Director of Chief Prosecutor, you're always welcome to the table, along with everybody else. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate the chance. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You too.
Thank you.
Good Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, let's go through. We've got two more pieces that we need to enact and deal with. Okay, ordinance number 1117-2021, as amended by Council Members Polensek and Griffin by Department request an emergency ordinance to supplement the codified ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976 by enacting new section 385.82 relating to the requirements for guard posts for the Division of Fire, Department of Public Safety. It came to us on first time reading, October 14th, approved by Director of Public Safety, approved by Director of Finance. There's no legal objection. I do not see any estimated cost in the piece of legislation. I must read the amendments. In section 385, .82, at the Division A, strike guard post shall comply with and insert vehicle impact protection required by this code shall be provided by physical guard post banners that comply with and at Division A, 5, strike protected object and insert equipment requiring protection. Number 2 in section 1 at section 385.82, insert new division C to read as follows. C, no person shall install vehicle impact protection guard posts that do not comply with the requirements set forth in this division without being subject to penalties provided in section 381.99. And that was signed by Assistant Director of Law, Kevin Roberts. Okay, can somebody tell us what this is? But before you do that, I just want to thank the fire chief. I want to thank him for sending out the the honor guard to the service for firefighter Richard L. Vadnal, who unfortunately passed away last week. Passed away last week, was buried on Monday of this week, but he sustained a stroke while working for the Division of Fire many, many years ago. He was a photographer for the Division of Fire and also worked at Engine Company 30, and his family was very supportive of the Division of Fire, and I want to thank the chief for having the honor guard out there. The family was very thankful, so I need to say that publicly. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Council Chair.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Dave Talbot. I'm the Fire Marshal for the City of Cleveland.
Thank you.
And I prepared a PowerPoint to go
Okay.
over both of these pieces of legislation.
Go ahead.
I know sometimes PowerPoints are a little hard to see.
Yeah.
And so I
Are they
prepared-
on our, are they on our,
These are handouts as well.
okay, good, that's better
Can I
yet.
give them these here? There's
Okay.
four of them.
There,
And then you can keep one.
I'll
and
keep
you can go with the AD.
here, make sure. it's
Okay,
up
we'll
there
get
for
'em.
everyone. Yeah, keep them together. No, keep
Okay,
them
no,
as
keep
one
it all
package.
together. It's one
Keep it all
packet. You
together?
don't-
It's
yeah,
one packet.
They're paper
One
clipped together,
packet.
one
They were-
packet.
Here we go.
Yeah, paper
Okay.
clipped together.
So
Here's a
just keep the
packet
whole
right there.
packet.
Yep.
You want to look at the bottom page right now?
The
for
bottom
ballots?
page, okay.
Yeah,
That.
The
just
back-
like what's on the
Okay, we
screen.
got you. Go ahead.
all the way at the bottom. Okay, so basically this legislation mirrors the state fire code except for one instance. The state fire code obviously is state law, and that's the minimum standards for the fire department as far as code compliance. And the code also gives us the opportunity to make it more stringent to fit our municipality better. So in the state code, it basically states that the bollards must be 48 inches on center, 3 feet core drilled into the ground in a 15 diameter concrete vault. They have to be a minimum of 3 foot high, but can go higher, and have to be 3 feet from what you're protecting.
Ordinance number.
In the state code, it says they have to be 4 inches in diameter. And the change that we're making for our city is to make it 6 inches in diameter because it provides better protection.
Yes.
Where these go would be in front of like a propane cage for resale at a grocery or a gas station. Companies that have above ground fuel tanks for their fleet fueling, they go around them to protect the trucks from backing into them. It's been shown that in 4-inch bollards aren't quite thick enough where people hit those. Sometimes they knock them into the product.
Okay.
Where a 6-inch bollard is something that is, more stable, and it's less. If you hit one of those, you're going to know it. And at the same time, most of these have been being put in this way for the last probably 4 or 5 years. They've been going with 6-inch bollards. It just isn't in the legislation. So we request that we make legislation to provide that.
To the fire marshal. So this is going to mirror state law?
Yes, except for the 6-inch minimum diameter. Everything else is word for word is state law.
Okay, so the state law requires what, a 4-inch?
4-inch, yes, sir.
But you believe we need to have the 6?
Yes, sir.
Now, my question is this, which to me makes common sense. Who's going to enforce this?
Well, to put these hazards on your property, because these are to protect hazards.
Yes.
Combustible liquids, propane.
Yeah.
That's a permit process. So before they can put those properties on, or those chemicals on their property, we have to go out and do a site inspection. We have to issue a permit to them. Part of issuing the permit is having proper protection. Okay?
Okay.
So right now, if somebody were to come back and say, hey, we're following the state code, they could limit it to the 4 inches, which won't provide the protection that the 6-inch would.
Yeah.
And that's what we're asking for.
So will this be totally in the responsibility of fire, your inspectors, or is this going to be up to building and housing to enforce?
This would be fire.
Fire.
Our hazmat bureau
Yeah.
would go out and inspect all these different locations.
Okay.
And they're the ones that sign off on being allowed to deliver the product to those locations.
Do we know at this time in the city of Cleveland how many there are, how many locations?
I don't have a number off the top of my head as far as how many have bollards, but
Yeah.
anywhere you have an above-ground fuel tank that's permanent has bollards.
Okay.
Anywhere that has a propane cage has bollards.
Okay.
Some stores will put them in front of their stores just for protection of their own building.
Yeah.
But that's not required by us, just for the hazards.
Okay. I have one propane facility in my ward on South Waterloo Road, and I'll be honest, I just have not paid attention. I'm assuming they have bollards. I want to hope they have bollards
Yes.
out there.
If they have a permit, they have bollards, or they wouldn't
Oh.
get a permit.
Okay. Any other comment from the administration? Councilman Jones.
Same page here. This is an entire presentation. So are we just talking about, Mr. Chairman, this portion of it, or, because I see the fees and fee changes? Is that all a part of all
This
of
is just the bollards right now, and then we'll go to the fees. It's a separate ordinance.
Okay. So the difference of 4 inches and then, 6 inches, right? Mm-hmm. When you say baller, are these the metal steel?
That's the steel pipe. They're usually yellow.
Yes.
And they have to be 3 feet deep in the ground.
Right.
Concreted in, and they have to be a minimum of 3 feet high. Most people buy an 8-foot piece of pipe, drop it in 3, and then you have 5 feet. That way, when you're backing up your car, you can see it.
Right.
If it's 3 feet, you may not see it when you're backing up.
So you're saying have it, now explain to me the difference on the 6-inch minimum concrete steeled pipe. Explain that to me.
The difference, it's the
Right.
diameter.
Okay,
You
so
have
that's-
6-inch round or 4-inch round.
Okay, so your thing is, let's have it at 6 inches.
6 inches gives you way more stability, especially with the size of the trucks that pull into these to make deliveries.
Okay.
4 inch isn't going to stop them.
No further questions on
Okay,
it, Mr.
yeah,
Chairman.
6-inch, and those are full, they're filled with concrete.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah, you're not going through that.
No.
Any other questions of the committee members? Councilman Kelly?
To the chair, to the chief, just out of curiosity, would be something we would put around the new police station as well, or something like that? Would that, where you want to block off the sidewalk or so? There's nothing?
No, this
It's
is
just for
this is to
propane.
protect hazardous material, hazardous liquids.
Right.
Flammable liquids.
Yeah. At some point, yeah, you, Councilman, you bring up a good point, because that's something, at some point, that's been one of our concerns, as the director knows and as the chief knows, as it pertains to hardening the police headquarters. So at some point, they'll be explaining that to us, how that is going to take place, but we're not there yet. Okay. Any other questions of the committee for the fire chief, chief fire marshal? Yes, Council Lady Gray.
We're on the last page of that
last
packet, the very last page.
That
Yeah,
just
go to the very
shows,
last page.
All right.
that will show you what the, that will show you what the bollard looks like, and it will be a 6-inch bollard versus a 4-inch bollard. They're recommending that.
Okay, I don't even know what that is. So,
A bollard is a post,
okay,
and that's what you'll see on the last page.
okay.
The yellow is the post that goes in the ground, and that protects wherever you have propane or other hazardous materials. There, we will require that it now to be 6 foot with the 3 foot going in the ground.
Yeah, to the chair of the council,
Yes.
member Gray, that's like when you go to, let's say, to a grocery store, you see those posts that's around. It's very similar to that, but in this particular case, these particular posts will be around like propane tanks and things of that nature, any hazard that's on their property.
Okay,
Okay?
all right.
Okay, thank you. Without any further ado, ordinance number, let me find it again, at 1117-2024 is approved as amended. Please sign it up. I thank my colleagues. Okay. Now, the next piece is, this is the charge aspect. Ordinance number 1144-2024 by council members Polensek and Griffin by department request, an emergency ordinance to amend sections 381.051, 381.052, 381.053, 381.054, and 381.06 of the codified ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as amended by ordinance number 2393-02, passed February 3rd, 2003, relating to fees for various fire permits, special inspection and testing fees, and fees for certificates of qualification. It was read for the first time October 21st, approved by Director of Public Safety, approved by Director of Finance, approved by Director of Law on October 25th. It is now officially before us, and I'll ask the Director and the Chief and the Fire Marshal to explain this in detail.
Sure, I'll
Whoever-
just start
okay.
briefly to the chair and the body, and we'll have Fire Marshal Talbin
Okay.
get into the particulars. He has a presentation relative to this ordinance, which is ordinance number 1144-2024. If approved by council, would amend various sections of codified ordinances relating to fees for various fire permits, special inspection and testing fees, and fees for certificates of qualification for the Division of Fire, Department of Public Safety. The purpose of these amendments are to update these sections of the codified ordinances to update the permit fee schedule to reflect current and actual cost for the Division of Fire. Chief Talbin will have a presentation for you relative to the fees, and we'll answer any questions that you may have.
Okay.
All right, the chair. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at updating our existing fees. I have a fee comparison, and obviously there's some fees at the end that will bring us up to industry standard, which we're pretty much far behind. This first slide here, basically, as you said, the last time fees were adjusted were in 2003. It's 2024. It's been a while, and everything goes up, and as far as workload does as well. As you can see on the box on the left, that's from last year, 2023. We had about 2,866 permits, and we brought in 945,649. As of October 31st of this year, we're already at 3577, which was a pretty good jump. And we're at just a little over $1 million as far as revenue that we brought in from permit fees. And we still have 2 months to go to complete the year. The first 2 pages on the packet I handed out is these 2 slides here. Basically, what this shows you, what the permit is. The center column is our current fee, and the right side of the column is our proposed fees. That's the one with the blue lines on it.
Yes.
And you could look at that. Now, we're going to go into this a little bit more detail as we go through our comparison. These are separated by the codified ordinances that we're asking to adjust.
Yes.
And as you can see, what I did when I put this together, the white column is our current fee. The salmon colored copy is where our proposed fees are. And then we have Toledo, Sycamore Township, Pasco County, which is in Florida, and it could be a sister city to us.
Okay.
Their fire department's almost the same size. Everything's apples to apples. And then we have Columbus, Willoughby, as well as Cincinnati. And I looked at all their fees and matched them to our fees, and I tried to bring us a little closer to the 2024 standard. So as we can see through the different pages here, you can look at the different comparisons as we go through 381.52 with our storage tanks, our hazardous substance, the difference. Now, some people didn't permit hazardous substances, but we do. Some of them run things through building and housing, which we have our own fee
Yes.
schedule.
Okay.
Then we have obviously some special inspection fees, testing fees, like your daycares, your license inspections, things like that, standpipe inspections, flow tests that are every 5 years. This last column here is our specialty items. Now, this is called a certificate of qualification, and basically what that is, it's a yearly permit. There are about 2 from this category. The first one is liquid petroleum gas, LPG. And what that certificate of qualification does,
So you don't have that as a part of this package?
yes, it is. It's on,
How do I get this flip that?
I'm trying to find it here and I don't see it.
it is, it's
I'm
on
looking at it.
3rd page at the top.
This one here?
Yeah, right at the top. Okay, if you can see the liquid petroleum gas is the first thing. Okay, so basically what that does, the person that has this hazard on their property has to give us a list of who had a safety class in their employment and who's allowed to handle the propane. Okay, and that's annually, so that way we can update their employment list. The rest of them are all different types of fire suppression. And what each of those, if they're on their property, they need to submit a certificate of qualification, which identifies an impairment coordinator. So that way, if there's an issue with these, we know who we have to go to get it repaired properly. And that's an annual thing. It's kind of just a safety check to make sure they're doing everything that they're supposed to do. Okay?
On the point, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
your hydrant system, so if I have a sprinkler installed and I have to pay currently $35 a year?
To the chair of the councilman, no, that's not correct. A yard hydrant system is where a commercial company takes over a city street and makes that their property, like the Dairyman's over there off of Western.
So they would be permitted to do that for
Yeah, so they have hydrants that used to be city hydrants, but when they took that property over, those became yard hydrants now. And they're responsible for the upkeep of those hydrants on their property, which that's why that's on there for them. We'll come in and inspect them to make sure everything is working properly.
The sprinkler install, so can you explain that?
When there's a new sprinkler system being put into a building, then there's a certificate, that's their impairment coordinator for the sprinkler system. So that's the way we know that who's in charge, who, in case there's something wrong, who am I going to call? Because a lot of times you go to a building and there's no information, people have left, they've retired, and we have no way of keeping that up, and this is a way to keep that up.
I see. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
To the fire marshal. So from a standpoint of small businesses in our neighborhood, what type of small business would fall under this?
For sprinklers or?
Yeah.
It all depends on what hazards they have. Most small businesses probably wouldn't need to be sprinklered,
Okay.
depending on the size.
Right.
What you're saying small. Now, if it's a plating business, yeah, they're going to have some type of
Yeah.
suppression in there, an alarm system.
Yeah,
It all
I-
depends on what the animal is.
Again, I want to make sure the action that we're taking here is not, I'm trying to think of the best word to describe this, is not punitive. Yeah, it's not punitive. I mean, I want to make sure that, because my position has always been, with pertains to our neighborhood businesses, I want to be pro-business. I want to be proactive.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want to put any more additional burden upon them, but at the same time, as you indicated in your opening presentation, we've got to make sure that we are also covering our cost of internally within the division, whether it be police, fire, EMS, whatever the case may be. I want to make sure, because I'm looking at, like, under storage tanks, up to 1,000, I'm assuming that's gallons, that's going from 65 to 100. So I'm looking at some of these automatic fire alarm systems from 1 to 25, from 65 to 200. That's a significant increase. Suppression systems, again, standpipe inspection, 65. Those. How do we establish?
What I did was I looked at those other cities I have on the top there.
Yes.
And I looked to see what they charge. Columbus charges $450 for the same thing.
Okay.
So the prices that I put in for us aren't to the top end.
Yeah.
I kind of geared it back a little bit for the same reasons that you've said. Keep in mind those certificate of qualification permits, right now they're already there on the books at $35. We're just asking to raise it $15.
Okay.
Which it's not like we're putting in a new permit on them.
Yeah.
They're already doing
Chair,
this.
Chair, I'd also like to make a comment. You mentioned about small businesses
Yes.
and not being punitive on
Right.
them. We also have to look at it from the perspective, if a small business has a fire incident, many times it will put that small business out of business permanently.
Right. No, I
We
understand.
are trying to protect them to the point where they won't have these fire incidents and they can continue to have business in the community.
No, that's a very good point, G. I just want to, I'm always, when I'm looking at, I don't care what department, what division, when we're increasing fees for services or whatever, I'm always looking how it impacts on our citizens, our local businesses. I'm always trying to weigh that because we want to be competitive. And I want our fees and our structures to be obviously lower than the suburban communities, you know, so, which is an enhancement to locate in the city of Cleveland. So that's what my concerns. I just want to make sure as I'm looking at this, because some are you know, only a minor increase, like you know, here's a $5 increase. Here is a $25 increase, but then some of them they're, you know, $65 to $300.
And when those that are larger increases is because of the time that it takes to do those. Most of those fees are paid by the contractor, not by the business owner.
Okay.
And that's during the construction. So a lot of times these take multiple inspections, which right now they're paying one fee for their plans review, and then we inspect it, and sometimes they abuse us and they have us out there 6-7 times for the same inspection because they weren't ready the first time they called us out.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the part that ties our time up where we could be elsewhere doing other inspections for other people that are ready, and we're going back to the same place multiple times, and everywhere else, they would pay a fee each time the inspector came,
Right,
which limits that abuse of the inspector.
Okay, Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My sentiments exactly where you are on the issue of making sure that, you know, we want, because see, some of these that we now have fees that you're asking about, we haven't had fees at all on some of this. Because where you look at the fee column, you can see that there was no fees previously. And then to have the fees. But let me just say this before I start out. I just wanted to give you that preference in terms of foundation. How does this, if any of this, impacts our residents? Or is this all
The
commercial?
residents? This
Is
is
this
all
all
commercial.
commercial?
This is
just
commercial.
for commercial permitting fees only, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And most of this doesn't even go to the business owner, it goes to the person doing the
Who's doing the
work.
permits, right?
Right.
Okay.
And these people are paying these fees in every other municipality but ours.
So let me get a chance.
Okay.
If you let me, right? So I would presume that you're the distinguished gentleman that gathered all this together from
Yes,
all
sir.
the other cities to see what their stuff is. You did a good job.
Thank you.
And I'm not opposed, Mr. Chairman, looking at some of this stuff here and getting us caught up to where we should be, because technically speaking, if we were charging these here fees, as other cities have been always charging these fees, we'd probably be sitting at $2 million.
Probably.
Right. So the issue is, I'm not opposed, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
to the increases. I reviewed majority of this here already, and so I just wanted to make sure that what we were doing here would not impact or have a negative impact on our residential community.
Yeah.
But this is just basically the industry standards for various different cities. Now, I guess I have a question, Mr. Chairman, on trying to find that piece I was looking at. Can you give me an idea when you talk about sprinkler heads? Can you tell me about that?
Okay, if you look in any building that's sprinklered, okay, depending on the square footage of the building, that gives you the requirement of how many heads that you would need. Depending on the occupancy, what type of head that you're going to need. It could be a pendant, upright, all depends on the space, what it's used for, the
Yes.
business type, the hazard type, all that comes into play, okay? So the code dictates what they have to have, and that's what the plans reviewers do. Okay, it's pretty much spelled out in black and white in the code.
Yeah.
And so when plans are submitted, they go through and make sure that they have the proper amount of sprinkler heads and they're the proper type. Does that answer your question?
It does, and it leads me to ask another series of questions. Given the fact that a number of these increases and fees that have not been charged previously, how would this impact our existing businesses that have not paid any fees at all in a number of these areas
Well-
moving forward? How would that impact our existing system? Because they haven't had these fees ever.
Okay, well, the one thing to take in consideration, the work that goes along with those fees is already being done for free and being paid for by the city.
Okay.
Okay? The contractor that is doing this work pays these fees in every other municipality but ours. And as far as impacting the customer, it may impact a little bit in their price, but these fees are usually worked into their price for the other municipalities. And when they come to Cleveland and they don't have to pay the fee, one that benefits is the contractor, not the resident. They don't say, oh, we're in Cleveland, we're going to take 25% off our cost because we don't pay for permits.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to say, hey, bonus, right?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any readiness. I think you guys did a good job on this. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of the committee members? Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one question. Since you're charging the fee, where does the fee go to?
Okay,
What-
all fees that are charged, okay, they obviously pay with check or by credit card. Those fees then go through our office to our procurement and the system. General fund. The general fund? Yeah, everything ends up at the general fund.
All right.
Yeah, unless it's an enterprise account, anything an enterprise account would go back to them. But a general fund, any fee for service would go back to the general fund.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions, any members of the committee? Without further ado, ordinance number 1144-2024 is approved as read. Please sign up. I want to, before the director leaves, I want to acknowledge that today I attended the swearing-in ceremony for 39. The one was part of Richmond Heights, right? Okay. So, oh, it was 40? But, because I had 38 down.
I stand corrected, Chair. It's actually 39, with one being of the 39 was a Richmond Heights police
Okay,
officer.
so
That's correct.
38 CPD, one from Richmond Heights, sworn in today at 11 o'clock to the Cleveland Police Department. So I want to congratulate all of them and their family members that were in attendance. Councilman Casey and I were sat next to one another this morning, and he had mentioned to me about the Richmond Heights officer. Have we considered I know it was one. Have we considered opening it up to other municipalities and charging them for training?
To the chair, that's a great question. I know that years ago, the Division of Police did.
Yes.
So, yes, that's something that we're receptive to. Yes, sir.
Okay, I would certainly encourage you to explore that because the mayor of Richmond Heights, who sat next to me, who I've known for some time now, indicated she thought that was very helpful to them. And I'm assuming that might be a benefit to other cities in Concord County where we can work together and help each other. I think we do that in fire now. Do we not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Chair, we do.
Yeah, and I think that from my observation, that's been very successful. So again, I want to congratulate, and I just want to say this. The next class will be graduating when? That is in,
To the chair, I believe in March. I'll
March.
get you exact
and
date,
that's
but
going
it's
to be
I believe March
approximately
of
about, what,
2025.
about the same number?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And as it pertains to additional officers, when's the next recruitment?
To the chair, as you know, we're going through the process now, the 1-for-10s, to seat a class on December 16th.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have another recruitment drive in January,
Okay.
a 3-day process like we had just a couple months ago.
The thing that was reoccurring to me as I sat there, and I've sat through, I was thinking today how many of those I've sat through over 12 terms, I lost count, swearing-in ceremonies, and every one of us is enjoyable for whether it be police, fire, EMS. But I keep asking myself, how did we go over a 2.5-year period with just getting 9 and 10, then going to 38? What happened here? What didn't happen here?
To the chair, that's really a great question. I know that through various methods and working together with Mayor Bibb and his administration, with the RISE initiative, increasing the pay for officers,
Right.
I believe is part of it.
Right.
Increasing the pay while in the academy. At one point, it was only $15. And I don't want to be insensitive saying only $15 an hour. But however, when some of these individuals who want a career or life in law enforcement, they leave careers and jobs to other places where they're making pretty decent money, and then to start an academy where they're taking the pay cuts, very difficult, especially if you have a family. So
Exactly.
increasing the pay in the academy was tremendous. The sign-in bonuses, things of that nature. Also having the hiring events, the 3-day hiring event really helped us out because when you have the 3-day hiring event, you have individuals come down within 3 days if they pass they've passed the physical agility, the test, and so forth. When they walk out the facility, they have a letter of offer letter. Before they leave theirs, and then they know for certain that within probably 3 months or less, they'll be seated in a police academy. That was not the case before. I believe all that, the RISE initiative, all the things that were implemented
Okay.
is one of the reasons why we went from having 10 or 11 folks in our police academy to now, as you can see, over 50. This started with over 50 here. As we have national averages, we lose, anywhere from 15%, 10 to 15%. So it's not uncommon that you go from 50 recruits down to 30-something recruits.
Okay, I understand
That's just
that.
common. I know you're aware of that as well.
I
But I
just-
believe that's one of the reasons, coupled with other reasons as well.
Okay. And I would be remiss if I didn't inject in there the fact that that City Council approved increasing those pay and the hiring bonus. In fact, we even recommended a greater hiring bonus, but okay, you folks didn't want to agree
To
with
the,
that.
to
but
the
I know.
chair, you're absolutely right. It's a
Yep.
partnership,
Right.
collaboration, the administration and city council.
Okay. So, because I was saying to some of my colleagues and some of the people who are in attendance, I thought it was an excellent cross-section of the 30. I'm looking African-American, Hispanic, Caucasian, women, males. I said to Councilman Casey, I said, to me, clearly reflects there was an effort made to really touch all segments of the community.
To the chair, again, really good
Yeah.
point of observation
Yeah.
as well. That's part of what we try to do in the Division of Police and Department of Public Safety is make sure we have a police force and a fire division, EMS and so forth, animal care control that's reflective of the community. That's a lot of effort that goes through it with our recruitment, and also not just the recruitment of chiefs in the various divisions, the assistant directors, and also folks that are in the recruitment.
Yeah.
Make sure we have a diverse
Yeah.
candidate pool.
And I will tell you my experience over the years, they all look very fit, too,
To the chair.
compared to many years ago.
To the chair, I have to agree with you. They were very fit. They
Okay.
did, the training staff did a tremendous job with making sure these folks that are coming through the academy
Yeah.
are physically fit. You know, that's part of it, but also, you know, and make sure that their emotional well-being is also
Okay.
adhered to as well.
Well, that's important, because many, many years ago, I thought Weight Watchers should have been part of the program as it pertains to the academy, but that didn't happen, okay? So nonetheless,
Well, yeah, and also
we've
the
made strides.
And also, I think it was the top top candidate, the female officer, which is outstanding.
And I even commented to her when I shook her hands. I said, "So it's clear to me that they don't want to mess with you." The rest of the,
Yeah, I heard you.
Yeah,
You're right behind me.
Yeah, she could outdo all of them. Okay?
Yes, she was the
And
most physically fit, which is awesome.
That's exactly
Yeah.
so. Nobody wanted to mess with her at that point. So, okay, without any further ado, yes, yes.
Chair, I just want to say one thing to the chief here. The last time you were at the table, Chair, to
Yes.
the chief, I had asked about two houses that were fire hazard. And I want to say thank you, the community, thank you, because on East 116th Street, that house was tore down 2 weeks ago. So we appreciate it. The community appreciate you. They called me tremendously and say, hey, Councilwoman Gray, whoever done this, we are happy. And that whole area from Honeydale to Parkview is completely green space, and it
Thank
looks
you.
so much better. So we
Okay.
thank you and appreciate you for doing what you've done with building housing.
Okay, Chair, to the Councilwoman.
Yes.
But I appreciate your thanks, but the majority of that belongs to Building Housing. We just serve as kind of the communication or the messengers to get the information to the right people, but Building Housing are the ones that actually got it torn down.
Yes,
Okay.
and I stated that, but I'm going to
Thank
state it again because I sat at this table with
Okay.
you the last time.
Well, good.
And I sent you the email
you.
with the addresses, and just as
Thank you.
Chief Drummer just stated, it's a collaboration. So thank you, along with Building Housing and the residents in Ward 4 off of East 116. Thank everyone has done it, but it started at this table when I gave the complaint to you.
Yes.
So just
Thank
want
you.
to be acknowledged.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
Council Lady. I would hope the Fire Marshal and Chief would send a good message over to Building Housing about the Collinwood Tavern there on Saranac Road. That's been sitting there burnt for how long now? So, okay, without any further ado, I want to wish members of the administration, Safe Director, Assistant Safe Director, Chief, Fire Marshal, I wish you all a joyous and happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Happy
Okay,
Thanksgiving.
thank you.
Thank you.
Committee's adjourned.